Hi, I'm Maria Larrison, CEO of Sheltering Wings, and today we have Greg Hylton with the Indianapolis Colts. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Maria. Thanks for having me.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you first became involved with Sheltering Wings.
I actually found out about the shelter through my wife, Terry. She learned about the shelter through our church, Plainfield Christian, and every year around the holidays, my wife and I would buy Christmas gifts for families and needy families, and we were looking for a new place to go to donate Christmas gifts, and so Terry had read about that in the church bulletin that the shelter had a need. So I went out there originally thinking I was just going to donate some Christmas gifts, and at the time, April Bordeaux was the executive director, and got to meet April when I was out there, and we talked for a little while, and she invited me to be a part of a committee that was working on a development plan for the shelter at the time, part of a volunteer committee. So I served on that committee for a few months and really got to know a little more about the shelter and really liked what the shelter was about, and was asked to join the board, and am now my fifth year on the board and my second as board chair.
So being part of the Indianapolis Colts, how has that benefited Sheltering Wings?
I really enjoy a lot of things about working for the Indianapolis Colts. One of the things I enjoy the most about working here is that it's an organization that prides itself on community service. And as an employee of the Colts, you're encouraged to always find ways to get back to your community and get involved in the communities where you live. And so with that comes a lot of flexibility from Mr. Ursay to all the staff, and he allows us to take some time away from work if it's allowing us to do some things that are helping our community. And for me, personally, it's allowed me to attend meetings and events and functions to benefit the shelter. And the Colts have also been pretty good about supporting the shelter financially for events and making some donations and things like that. I think secondly, in my position here, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of great people. A lot of people in business that are partners of the Colts through sponsorships or suites or season tickets, and I've had the opportunity to expose a lot of those people to the shelter, which in turn has resulted in the benefit of some people getting involved with the shelter, either donating their time or their services to the shelter too. So I think that's a couple of ways my involvement with the Colts has benefited the shelter.
As far as the shelter goes, you know we're a faith-based organization. Can you speak to that?
I think like I said earlier, that's the one thing that really drew me to the shelter. I think that's the one thing that really draws a lot of people to the shelter. I think, you know, outside of your church, there aren't a lot of opportunities for Christians to really get involved with organizations, and I think that you know, one of the things that resonates with people about the shelter is that we've never compromised our integrity, our commitment to being a faith-based organization, and I love that. We've never done that in order to receive, you know, funding or grants or to please a donor or a volunteer. We've always stayed true to the mission of the shelter, and that's to glorify God. And I think that people really like that about us, and I know I like that personally, that we're true to our mission.
That's great. As far as domestic violence, historically it's been a woman's movement. Women have been involved in educating and that type of thing, and we've seen a little bit of a growth towards, or a movement towards, men getting involved. Can you speak a little bit about how men can get involved with Sheltering Wings or the domestic violence movement?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly just providing, being a good role model for the women, and as you know, the shelter, we always need volunteers there. And I think anytime we can get men to come in and volunteer at the shelter and really find ways to interact with the women and kids and just reassure the women that you know, the experience that they had is really not a normal relationship. It's not a normal experience, and they shouldn't expect for those experiences to follow them all through their lives. So I'm hoping that just by volunteering and having men as good role models at the shelter can kind of help these women and children heal a little bit, and certainly some other opportunities through some mentoring programs that the shelter has too. So I think there are a couple of different ways, but I really think just being involved, either volunteering at events or volunteering at the shelter, and just being a great role model for the women is a good way to help them heal.
And we've seen that firsthand at the shelter. So as far as education, we know that's a key in ending this cycle of domestic violence. Can you speak a little bit about what Sheltering Wings does regarding educating?
Yeah, you know, I'm really proud of the programs that have grown from the shelter. I think, you know, when the shelter started, it was really just there as a temporary housing agency to help heal women and children. Now we're being more proactive, and we're trying to educate, and that's the key. I think we all understand that the more we can educate, the more we can do to end the cycle of domestic violence. So I think the fact that I think last year alone, We educated more than 4,000 teenagers with our teen dating violence program at the high school and middle school level. I think that number is going to continue to grow year after year because it's such an important piece of our work right now. But I also think the little things we do by educating the nurses and the dental technicians so they know what to look for when they have patients in their offices, and speaking to churches and educating the congregations about signs of domestic violence and things that they can do if they know of someone who's in trouble, speaking to companies at United Way kickoffs or at company-wide meetings where we get an opportunity to speak to those groups. So I think we're making an impact because we're getting out there and we're not just waiting for the phone to ring, people telling us they need help. I think we're getting out there and educating people. Hey, someone might need help, but they might not know where to go. Here's how you can help that person.
As far as the community, I know you talked earlier about how community is so important to you. How do you think just our community can get involved with Sheltering Wings?
Well, I think one thing you have to do is not assume that someone else is going to get it done, and I think too often that it's too few people doing a majority of the work, and I just think that we all have to take accountability and responsibility in our communities, and I think anyone that recognizes the work that's going on there and takes the time to learn about this shelter in detail would really enjoy seeing the things that happen there every day. And I know just for me personally, I kind of feel like God has blessed me with some special skill sets personally and professionally, and it's my responsibility to take advantage of those and use them to glorify His name. And I think that there are other people out there that just need that door to open, that have the same passion, and we just need to continue to introduce them to the shelter and educate them. But I think that just taking the time to get to know the shelter and what it really stands for, I think people would be amazed at what it's really like behind those walls every day.
Okay, well, thank you, Greg.
Thanks for your time, Maria.
If you would like more information about Sheltering Wings, please give us a call at 317-745-1496. See you next time.